joining Lively TV. I have a super guest here today, a man who took his health into his hands and created a movie that became also a sequel this year, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. So here we go. We have Joe Cross with us.
G'day guys, how are you? Hey Chantal, how are you? Lovely to see you again.
Yes. So actually on that point, I had the pleasure to see your presentation yesterday, Whole Foods, and I really wanted to see it because I wanted to see how you engage with the audience. And I loved it. I saw that everyone had so much respect for you and was so inspired by you. Did you ever think you would get this kind of success when you started?
Oh, no, never. No, I thought that, maybe 10,000 people or so would buy the DVD. Remember, when I started this journey back in 2006, 2007, it was all about DVDs. It wasn't about streaming. There was no Netflix. Like, I think YouTube was maybe a year or 2 years old. So, it was not really something I thought that would be, 22 million people watching. I never thought that it would ever get to that. I never thought it would be where it is today. So I'm very fortunate.
Yes, very fortunate. And you made such an impact, and that's probably the best reward.
Very much, yeah. Well, I'd say the best reward is actually to be medication-free myself. To not have that debilitating illness. That is the biggest thing for me, to be really honest. And then the second thing is to be able to help others, because I don't want to sound selfish, but when you've got an illness like I had, you just do anything to get rid of it.
Yes, that's true. And when you started this journey, now that it's become your full-time job in a way, right?
It's funny. Like it actually, it's sort of taken over my life in a way.
And
it's hard to get away from it.
Yes.
Right?
So how do you balance your personal life so you can get me time and then being outside giving to other people?
Yeah, well, it's actually not that easy, to be honest. It's pretty tough because what I'm conscious of is that in the past, what happened in the past is that I was spending way too much time on work and not enough on me, and that does tend to sneak in a little bit here. So I've got to be very careful. When it's a global community, when it's actually the whole of the world, is out there, and I'm in Canada, I'm in the UK, I'm in Australia, I'm in New Zealand, I'm in South Korea, I'm in Singapore, I'm in Hong Kong, I'm in the US, and I haven't even done Mexico and South America yet, and there's still China and a lot of the European countries. I've done Germany and France. So it's not easy, okay? But I'm trying my best. I travel with my juice. I'm not like perfect. I don't sort of beat myself up when I'm not. But the last 3 days I've been in the gym, and I've just got back now from full day of meetings and presentations. And after this interview, I've got like a conference call back with New York for about an hour and a half, and then I'll go to the gym tonight. And I'll really be excited about hitting the gym for about 45 minutes because that's going to be me time and it's going to feel good about it. And then I'll go upstairs, have some room service and go to sleep. And that'll be my day to day. And I'll feel very good about it because it's been productive. Mm-hmm. And I managed to get my workout in. Now, if I don't get my workout in for some reason, like something goes AWOL, I won't feel good. All right, so I need to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Makes sense. And it's good that you take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't take care of others and give a good example.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the idea of having the second documentary? Because normally it doesn't happen. A documentary never really has a sequel.
No, it doesn't. It's usually for like superheroes and witches and people who drive furious cars, So, it's unusual. But look, I think the first film it did leave a lot of questions. What do you do after? Does Joe only live on juice alone? How do you sort of stay healthy in an unhealthy world? Like once you get healthy, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we tried to address in Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 2. We tried to look at, what works for people and what doesn't work, and talk to experts and talk to regular folks, and also showcase some success stories and also showcase ones that didn't work out.
And on that point, I saw that Phil didn't really... He was doing very well for 3 years.
Fantastic.
And then he had a relapse.
Poor old Phil had a massive failing in his life from his own eyes, of course, his own perspective, which was a marriage busting up. And that sent him into a relapse. And, he felt terrible about it. And I can understand that. It was a big thing for Phil. And he felt ashamed and he withdrew and he didn't want to be around people, and that was his support network. That was his community. And so when you do that, as Phil found out, it's very, very difficult to do this alone. And it's much easier if you're part of something and if you're not only getting support, but providing support.
Yeah, I actually read an extract today from him on Mind, Body, Green.
Yes.
And he said he was avoiding you for the longest time.
He was, yeah, because I think he was avoiding himself, really.
Yeah.
He was avoiding the reality of what had happened.
But what I really loved about it, he has a sentence, when he told you in the end what happened, you said, well, mate, let's get you better. And that kind of sympathy and empathy towards someone, that really is what touches me. And I think that's why people really like you. Sure.
Well, I mean, look, the reality is that I tried to help him, but, Phil has got, like everybody, it's got to come from within.
Yes.
And, we tried to get Phil a lot of support, and he sort of took some of it, didn't take all of it, and that's okay. I mean, he's his own man. And so, I think that right now where Phil is at is he knows there's a huge global support community out there that's willing to help him because he's helped so many. And so we'll see if he takes the people up on that, because there's lots of people that want to help him.
Yeah, I mean, he's become a figure, right? Someone wants
to
look after him and look up to him as well.
But all the journey starts from within.
Yes, no, absolutely. And as a coach, I know that.
Yes.
So I was wondering, you are actually moving towards the next project, which is much more towards children. And I know that people that are watching us now are very familiar with Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead and number 2, and they just really want to see what's next, because what is Joe Cross going to do next?
Well, we don't normally talk about what's next, but all right, Chantal, for you,
thank you.
I'll just give you a little bit of an insight. We felt that a lot of the kid stuff that we shot in Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 2 resonated with the audience. And so I'm fascinated by what kids are doing and how the children, like who are going to be the adults and the leaders of tomorrow, what are they doing? And not necessarily what are parents doing, but what are they doing about their predicament and what choices are they making? And so we are working on a project right now, which is my third film, which is going to look at the angle of health and wellness from what I would call little humans' point of view.
Okay, and will there be a book as well, or just the movies?
No, actually, you know what? I don't sort of think like that. I don't know. Probably not, because it's maybe, but I hadn't thought of it, to be honest. I think that just because I make a movie doesn't mean I have to have a book about it. I think that where I've been has been very specific on, I did this, that was my journey, and then these other people did that, and let's document, let's show, let's talk about specifics of juicing versus smoothies, blending, recipes. And I don't know whether that will be the future. Like I've got a film I want to make, I haven't got it started yet, about fat, because I think fat's a really interesting subject. There's films to make about yoga, which I think is interesting, and mindfulness and how the brain, can with meditation. So I think there's lots to discover, and I don't want to just sort of stay necessarily in the zone of only just repeating, talking about juice. I mean, listen, juicing is just one fabulous way of consuming plant food.
Yeah.
You can blend and you can eat. That's it. They're the 3 ways: juice it, blend it, eat it.
Yeah.
So I don't think my audience wants to just hear me talk about juice for 20 years.
No, and I think as you evolve and you learn more, you definitely want to share more. And I think you're surrounding yourself by people that were at IIN, and so they really know a lot about nutrition and holistic therapy and holistic health. So that probably impacts you in a positive way, because you're opening your mind to so many other things, right?
Sure, I'm learning all the time. I mean, I'm not an expert. I mean, I soak up lots of information, and I think that what I get is I take a whole bunch of information in, and then I try and break that down into the simplest way, so that the audience can get it succinctly from me. But I'm like an aggregator of that content, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, and I always wonder, when you finished the first movie, how obviously it was about 60 days of no eating at all, just drinking juice. When you went back into eating, how did you find it? How did you feel?
I felt great, but remember, I only ate what I'd been juicing for 90 days. So I didn't have anything that was animal or processed. I only had fruit, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds, and juice, of course. So a lot of blended drinks, a lot of, I remember loved my avocados. I remember the taste of avocado was amazing. And of course, just having an orange and a pear and some pineapple, strawberries, sweet potato was just awesome. So you get super excited about things that I would like say, never going to have that, because you want to have the burger or the pizza or the pasta or steak or whatever it is. So, when you come from a perspective of just having 60 days of juice, trust me, an avocado is like a meal fit for a king.
I can imagine food. So I actually have some questions from people.
Sure.
So I thought maybe we'll take them.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And see what our fans are saying. I have a question from Martin Element, who I think you spoke to on the phone about a juice bar that opened in Texas.
Oh, yes.
So he had a question for you.
Yes.
He said, when you started juicing, did you feel like you were on a high all the time? Because yesterday he had a juice at 6 p.m. instead of his normal 10 a.m. And it was buzzing at 12 o'clock at midnight, as if he had had caffeine all day.
Wow. So the answer is yes. And I think that, my juicing definitely gives me buzz and high. I notice it when I don't do it, which is very rare. Like if I miss one or two, I notice it. 1 or 2 days, not 1 or 2 juices, because I on a normal day, I'll only have like two big glasses of juice if I'm in the normal mode. If I'm juicing only, then it's like 6. So, and if I do drop a day, which is very unusual, very rare, because it just becomes part of my life now, then the answer is yes. I can understand exactly what Martin's feeling.
Okay, brilliant. So I'll tell him. So, Martin, you're listening. You're not the only one. Now we have one from Melissa from Australia. She has asked, can you give her a recipe for recharging and repairing?
Well, I don't actually put like a single recipe down and say, hey, what's her name, Melissa? Melissa, you need to do this, you need to do that. The way I look at it, I just had this question actually this afternoon from a member of an audience in London here, was that, you have to find recipes that work for you. Because what works for me in terms of taste, in terms of structure, in terms of balance, for celery, of cucumber, of kale, may not be something that, number one, you enjoy, that maybe it just doesn't do it for you. So I think we all have to investigate and work out what works best for us. I can say that if you're talking about getting hydrated, for example, I love watermelon, pineapple and ginger. It's a great hydrating drink. But, I do that if I'm going to go and do some exercise or go to the mall or go out for a walk or, I'm not going to have that if I'm going to sit down and watch telly because it's probably a little bit too much sugar in it from that perspective. But look, in moderation, it's fine. But balancing up, the answer to Melissa's question is that find the ingredients that work best for you and test it and then let us know.
Perfect, Melissa. And another question actually from her, because she has children, and she was saying, what are the best ideas, well, I guess they will come in the next documentary, but what are the best ideas for children? Can you detoxify a child?
So, the first thing I say is that the body is always detoxifying. Right now, Chantal, as we sit here now, we breathe out air and our perspiration and our kidneys are working right now and they're doing all that. I mean, the juice, the food you had earlier, it's all been detoxified. We are all doing that right now, okay? Cleansing, if you like. So, of course, you can cleanse any human if they're alive. But the way that I would sort of phrase that question is that if she's interested in kids, my biggest tip for kids is getting them involved in the process. So have the kids involved in the juicing. Doing juice only for young kids, not a good idea. Okay, we don't want to do that. That's not something we want to put into the heads of young minds to not eat and go on these sorts of to the journey. This has got to be sort of a more mature thing. So we don't recommend people under the age of 18 doing it. Okay. Now, in serious circumstances, they've done it and been successful, but that's an individual choice with a doctor. Can you detoxify children? The way I would look at it is, of course you can by not putting in a lot of processed food and animal product and having lots of plant food, but it doesn't have to be just juice.
Perfect. Thank you. And we have one from Joanne from the US asking, what are the top 3 vegetables and fruit to use in juicing and why?
The top 3. Well, if you're talking about juicing, I think you'll want to use juice plants and vegetables that have got lots of body of water in them. So, for example, if you sort of said to me, what are the ones that are vegetable based, I would probably lean towards cucumber and celery. I'd probably put sweet potato in there as well, because you can get an enormous amount of volume of juice. So I'd be in that row. Carrots are good. Bell peppers, or capsicum as they're known in Australia, fabulous. You can actually get a lot out of those, believe it or not. So that would be my vegetable area that I would go. I think with the cruciferous plant group, like leafy greens, I think they're a nice add-in, but they're not the top ones because you're not going to get a lot of volume out of them, no matter which sort of juice you use. On the fruit side of things, well, you can't go wrong with pears. I love pears. They have no salicylate, glutamites, or amines in there, which means they're not going to sort of give any reaction to anyone who has maybe some intolerances. I love apples, although I'm not much of a red apple man. I'm much more of a green apple guy. And then on another fruit that I would put in, let's just think about that. I'd probably lean to either pineapple or watermelon for the similar reason that, from a cost point of view, there's a lot of volume in there. I don't like necessarily to juice strawberries or delicate berries because I just feel that there's just, it's not the best use. I'd rather put them in a smoothie or eat those.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, they're quite expensive at the moment.
Yeah.
So Anne asks, how can juicing support fighting cardiovascular disease?
Yeah, so juicing, well, I think what Anne, is it?
Yeah.
What Anne's asking about is what's the best way to fight cardiovascular disease, so that we can sort of eliminate it.
Yeah.
So most cardiovascular disease is caused from lifestyle choices. I think maybe 1% is genetics. So what are these lifestyle choices? So juicing is certainly a factor, and it can help by promoting micronutrients and, basically putting this life that's found in plants into the body. But it's not like something you just do on its own. Yeah, there has to be bigger changes made. Obviously stopping smoking, cleaning up the diet, which means adding more plants, whether you juice, blend or eat, getting regular exercise, sleep, managing stress, and getting love and intimacy more in your life. So it's not just like, can juicing do it? Juicing on its own and smoking cigarettes ain't going to help.
Yeah.
So we need to sort of not be so minutiae and more macro and holistic.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Laura is asking, is there a difference between cold press juicers and centrifugal? I know you answered this a million times.
Yeah, look, is there a difference? The difference is the machine, but the output or the yield, in my humble opinion, is the same. Now, what you might get out of a machine that's a cold press, if it's an expensive one, is you might get more yield out of your plants simply because you spend a couple of $1,000 or pounds, you're going to have something that's going to really extract out every drop. But, for the average person, me, and the hundreds of thousands of rebooters around the world, probably even millions now, a centrifugal juicer is fine. There's a lot of talk out there about the heating up of the element. I mean, that's just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because people put produce in blenders and chop it up over and over and over again, and they can even make soup in blenders, and no one talks about nutrient deficiency or nutrient loss in a blender, which effectively is, pulverizing the plant and the atoms of the plant, the molecules of the plant over and over and over and over again. Whereas a juicer, it's one slice and then it's thrown up against the foil to extract out the water through gravity. So I don't buy into that.
Yeah, very good point. I actually never really questioned it, except when I was talking to people about the NutriBullet, and I said how the NutriBullet is all about making the nutrients very tiny so your body can just digest them very quickly. But I also wondered, it spins around a few times, so if that doesn't kill it, why would the juicer do it?
Exactly.
Yeah, good point. So Debbie is saying, if I lose weight with juicing, how can I be sure that eating again it won't cause me to gain it all back?
So I don't look at juicing for weight loss. I don't think about it that way. I think about it for health. So Debbie would need to really focus on the idea of saying, you know what, I'm going to do this with the idea of getting healthy. A byproduct will be weight loss, but it's not like a silver bullet. It's not like I do 10 days of juicing, lose 10 pounds, and then all of a sudden they're gone forever. No, she goes back to her old ways. Chances are that 10 pounds will come back and maybe even more. Yeah. So we don't think about it. Like, there's no guarantees here, Debbie. What we've got to do is use juicing as a tool to reboot the taste buds, as we were talking earlier, so that you get excited about avocado, excited about, watermelon, excited about pineapple, excited about sweet potato.
Yeah, so just changing your lifestyle.
Yeah, well, it's changing your lifestyle is a big statement. It's hard to do, but it's more about getting the taste buds back so that where you're coming from, you get excited about plants versus coming off, say, a huge, highly processed meal where plants are not going to excite you.
Yeah. I have Mike here saying, "Hi Joe, I'm overweight, but always make excuses saying that I'm not that big. How did you know you had become the biggest you could ever tolerate?"
Well, I didn't know that. Remember, I didn't do this for weight loss,
Yeah.
Mike. I did this to get off medication. So in a funny way, had I not been sick, I think that I'd probably still be that big. Because I didn't do this for weight loss. So in a funny way, the illness was a benefit that at least it showed and made my life painful. If I hadn't have had the illness, I probably could have kept going what I was going, and I would have built up plaque, because that doesn't hurt. Building plaque up in your arteries doesn't hurt, and I may not be here. Yeah. So in a funny way, my illness, I like to think about it as that it saved my life.
Yeah, good point. Mary's asking, what are the worst side effects to expect from detoxifying?
The worst side effects, well, let's take the word detoxifying out. I think what she's saying is if you go on a reboot.
Yes.
So the worst thing to expect is that the body is meant to eat, and you're going to go through some pain, withdrawals from not eating, because generally not eating is reserved for when there's a famine on and Mother Nature doesn't give and everyone's going through the same pain together. So why is the body telling you to eat it? Because its basic job is to alarm you if you're not eating, because without that, you don't none of us would be here if the human body didn't have this instinct to drive hunger. So the thing you're going to experience is you're going to have whatever pain you've got, it's going to be amplified because the body's trying to bring your attention to eating. But after 3 or 4 days, it could be longer, but generally 3 or 4 days, your body will realize that this is a period of famine, which it knows what to do. That little inner voice and inner pain will drop down. Hunger will turn off and you'll get more energy. So really the pain is if you've got a migraine, it's going to get worse. If you have eczema, it's going to get worse. Things are going to get worse before they get better. No pain, no gain.
Yeah, for sure. So last question. There were so many, but I only selected a few that I think really embody all of them. How important is to implement juicing in a normal routine instead of using it as a detox? I think that really ties into
much more important. I mean, this is a good question. Who asked this question?
Joe.
So he's a genius. He's got a great name. So the reason here that Joe's making a great point, and I would say that I talk today much more about adding juice, adding plants, adding this to our life, as opposed to just doing it and being extreme. I think that there's a place for the extremity, but you've got to be really broken to use that. And, if you're broken out there, then maybe this can help. Yeah. But if you are just trying to tweak and manage and just get back on track a little bit, then juicing and adding it every day, I mean, in this glass, you have these tens of thousands of phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals. This is true vitamin water, true micronutrient water. And when I take a drink like that, I'm just flooding my system. I'm freebasing Mother Nature. And I think this is critical. If you can do that every morning, it's a great way to start your day.
Awesome. Well, guys, Joe, thank you so much. Guys, if you haven't bought the book yet, this is exactly what you need to get to carry on your reboot, understanding what you have to do after starting juicing. And, well, Joe and I are going to have a nice juice, right? So, juice on!
Juice on.
Cheers.
Cheers.